I'm going to be talking about generation gap. Generation gap is the difference of opinions between one generation and another regarding beliefs, politics, and values. My first subtopic is going to be religion. Religion is the belief in and or worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods. There's thousands of religion across the world. Religion is highly influential, and people who are highly religious and more engaged with their extended families are likely to volunteer, more involved in the communities, and generally happier with the way things are going in their lives. The older generation is more likely to be religious than the younger generation because of the kind of environment, people, and parents that they grew up with. Social psychologists also suggest that the older generation are more likely to be religious because of their impending death. Culture and religion go hand in hand. If a culture expresses how humans experience and understand the world, religion is the fundamental way in which humans experience and understand the world. Technology plays a huge role in loss of faith. Research findings indicate that those who abstain from social media have a higher chance of attending regular church services. Because the younger generation is more likely to be involved with technology, there's a rise in atheism amongst them. Despite that, there's religions out there with a more younger population than older population, like spirituality and manifestations. Generations divide in a range of political attitudes. In opinions about same sex marriage, for example, where a clear pattern has been evident for more than a decade, Gen Zers and millennials have been and remain more supportive of same sex marriage, followed by Gen Xers, boomers, and silents. There has been an increase in the share of Americans expressing consistently liberal or mostly liberal views, while the shareholding a mix of liberal and conservative views has declined. Millennials are the most racially and ethnically diverse adult generation in the nation's history, yet the next generation stands to be even more diverse. Due to aging politicians, there's been a lot of outdated mindsets in places of power. As a result of this, more than half the American population support a maximum age limit for elected officials to hold office. The prominent public figures like Elon Musk and former President Jimmy Carter has expressed desires to see limitations put in place. Gen Zers is generally alike to millennials in political and social issues. Gen Z has been reported to be progressive and pro government, though this narrative has been challenged, particularly in Europe. The generation is largely in favor of LGBT rights, gender equality, and access to abortions. The cultural conflicts of the 1960s were largely fought over values and along generational lines. 40 plus years later, the public still believes the generations embrace many fundamentally different values and beliefs. Perceptions of generation gap and values vary surprisingly little along social or demographic lines, but some differences do emerge. Three quarters of respondents younger than 30 say the generations differ in terms of their racial and social tolerance. A view shared only about half of those 65 and under. Regardless of age, about two-thirds more of the public believe that older Americans are superior in terms of their moral values and respect for others, and younger generations is viewed as being more socially tolerant, though this verdict is biased and very one-sided. Americans agree there is a generational gap in the way young and old think and behave, but gone is the rancer between the older generation and the younger generation that characterized the late 1960s and early 1970s. Today, barely a quarter adults, regardless of age, report that there are many conflicts between young people and older adults. Today, parents say that they're having fewer serious arguments with their children in their late teens and early 20s than they recall having with their mothers and fathers when they were that age. Moreover, parents of younger children also report they are spending more time with their kids than their mother and father spent with them. In addition to arguing less, parents report they're spending more time with their younger children than their parents spend with them, and the proportion who express this view appears to have increased in the recent years.